Today, we're going to talk about something huge, a powerful, invisible force that's steering your life way more than the choices you think you're making every day.
I want you to think about your day so far. Seriously, from the second you woke up to right now. How many of those things you did were actual conscious choices, where you weighed the options? 10? Maybe 20? Well, what if I told you that the real number is probably way, way lower, and that the most important things that happened were decided without you even noticing? And this gets us right to something we're going to call the choice illusion. It's this deep-seated myth we all kind of buy into, that we're in the driver's seat with total control over our destiny. And you know what? We're about to pull that whole idea apart.
I mean, the common belief is so simple and attractive, right? If you want a better life, just make better choices. Want to be healthier? Go for the salad. Want more money? Choose to save. It just sounds so logical.
And this idea is incredibly sticky for a couple of big reasons. First, it makes us feel like we're the captains of our own ship, you know? It protects that sense of personal control. And second, it makes responsibility really simple. If things go sideways, well, that's on you. You just made a bad choice.
But here is the massive flaw in that whole way of thinking. The vast, vast majority of what we do every single day isn't the result of some active, conscious decision. We're just running on autopilot, following these scripts we never even remember writing.
So if it's not our active choices, then what is it? What's really pulling the strings? The answer is probably the single most powerful force in all of human behavior, the path of least resistance.
In that path, well, it's determined by something called defaults. A default is simply what happens when you do nothing. It's the option that's already checked for you, the automatic outcome that just happens if you don't step in and actively change it.
And here's what makes them so unbelievably powerful. They are completely silent. They operate quietly all the time, shaping what you do without ever asking for your permission or your attention. They're like the invisible architecture of your entire life. You see, this gets to a really fundamental truth about us. We aren't these super rational machines, carefully calculating the best choice every time. Nope, we're what you might call cognitive misers. We are hardwired to save mental energy whenever we can, and that means we almost always take the easiest path available.
Now, this whole insight explains a feeling we have all had. It explains why our best intentions, our New Year's resolutions, all of it, why they so often just crash and burn.
Let's just play this out. You set a goal, a great one. I'm going to save more money. That's your intention. But to actually do it, you have to fight the default. You got to fill out some complicated form or navigate a clunky website. That's friction. So what happens? The default, which is just spending your money like you always do, it wins. Not because you didn't want to save, but because the path of least resistance was just to do nothing at all. So yeah, the default is pretty much guaranteed to crush your willpower when these three things are true. When your attention is low, when you have to make the same choice over and over again, and when the consequences are way off in the future. Sound familiar? That's basically just modern life.
So this all brings us to this huge fork in the road when it comes to changing behavior. We can either keep demanding more and more effort from people, or we can just redesign the architecture around them. And this is the key difference. This is the absolute core of the whole idea. A system that's built on choice and effort is always, always fighting against our natural tendency to be lazy. But a system built on defaults, it accepts that tendency and actually uses it to nudge us toward better outcomes.
Let's just look at them side by side. A choice-centric system needs you to pay attention all the time. It needs discipline, and it totally breaks down when life gets messy and complicated. But a default-centric system? It's designed for how people really are. It cuts down on the number of decisions you have to make, it works even when you're tired and distracted, and because of that, it actually works at a massive scale. So what does all this boil down to? It means if you really want to influence outcomes, the most powerful tool you have isn't persuasion. It's not about trying to change someone's mind. It's about architecture. It's about changing the path. You know, once you start seeing defaults everywhere, you can't unsee them. And you start to realize just how enormous the implications are, not just for you, but for all of society. This goes way beyond personal habits. When a whole system is built on strong defaults, it becomes incredibly sticky. Just think about how hard it is to change your bank, or switch from one piece of software to another, or even change your political party. The friction, the effort of opting out is so high that the default just holds on tight. And this has really profound effects. It means systems of inequality could just keep growing automatically, because the path of least resistance is to just keep the status quo. It's also why both our good habits and our bad ones become so stable and so hard to change. They're just the default path we're on.
And maybe this is the most important part. When we ignore how powerful defaults are, we make a huge mistake. We put all the blame for bad outcomes on individuals. We tell them, hey, just make better choices. And we completely ignore the flawed architecture of the system they're trapped inside. We let the real source of the problem off the hook.
So I'll leave you with this thought. The world isn't really a series of choices you make. It's a series of defaults that were made for you. It's an architecture. And now that you can see the blueprints, the only question left is, what part of it are you going to redesign?
This channel explains money, artificial intelligence, and decision-making as interconnected systems. No hype, no gurus, no personal branding. New videos weekly.